China offers major opportunities on a number of fronts. As to whether it's a solution, that depends on what the particular problem is that you're asking about.
Right.
So I think the most important problem facing certainly the pharmaceutical industry, and by that I include biotech. The most important problem facing us is that the costs and risks of drug discovery and drug development have become so enormous that for all but the very largest companies, it is either impossible to really put together the resources to do it right, or if you can, it's typically a bet the company proposition. A small company may be able to raise sufficient resources to do one drug discovery program, but the failure rates are so high that you're really rolling the dice, and the odds are actually against you getting to the finish line. A gigantic company like Bristol Myers or Pfizer and so on, those big companies can afford to run multiple programs in parallel, but for the rest of us, it's just prohibitive. So there's no question that emerging countries such as China and India, Brazil, even Eastern Europe, these emerging economies where the costs of doing everything are generally lower, have attracted increasing attention on our part as places to do R&D. And the interesting thing is, this is no longer about just manufacturing widgets and toys more cheaply. Everybody who's paid any attention knows about outsourcing and about the cheaper costs of labor in developing countries, and many consumer industries have moved over there. What's interesting is that we now have an opportunity to tap into talent pools in places like China that are not just doing routine stuff like stuffing circuit boards, but actually can do cutting-edge R&D. And so the first wave of the move into China has been by companies here that have been interested in outsourcing certain parts of their R&D chain to places like China and India to be able to do R&D more cost effectively. The main benefit of that, from my standpoint, is that if I'm investing in a small company, it gives me a chance to take more than one shot on goal, rather than having to bet the entire company on one highly expensive program. So in that sense, in the R&D side, I think China certainly offers part of the answer today. Another opportunity is that China offers is that the Chinese market for healthcare products and services is growing explosively. The overall economy in China is estimated to be growing at about 10 to 11% a year. The healthcare market is growing at more like 25 or 26% a year. That's an enormous rate of growth. And as those 1.3 billion people in China achieve a certain measure of wealth and begin looking beyond basic survival and looking for other ways to improve their lifestyle, healthcare is generally one of the first things people think about. And so the China market is going to become a very significant market. We already know that large pharma is investing quite heavily in establishing a presence in China because they anticipate that China will emerge as one of the largest healthcare markets in the world within a few years.
So that's why, the pharmas that you mentioned before, like Eli Lilly, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, GSK, have all set up some kind of R&D facilities in China.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And they're pursuing different approaches, different business models, but that's right. At least a dozen of the largest pharma companies have made significant investments in China. A number of them have research operations there that now employ several hundred people each. So absolutely, they are making that investment.
And what about on the smaller company side? What are the activities there?
Well, the smaller companies have been slower to follow. And I think one of the amusing things about the venture capital community is that even though we have the word venture in our name, we are extremely conservative. The venture capital community has been very slow to recognize the developments in China on the life sciences side. At this point, many of the brand name VC firms have established a presence in China to do IT investments, although again, they were quite far behind the curve in recognizing the growth of the China IT sector. And now, my colleagues in the VC industry are beginning to spend some time looking at China. A number of them have begun to make exploratory trips. So we'll see. We'll see whether we create some momentum and whether we really begin to invest seriously in China. So
I understand you actually have been going there quite a number of years ago before anyone, before China and biotech actually could go into one sentence. So what did you see back then, and what are you seeing now? You mentioned one is the cost factor, and the other one is the talent base. I mean, other than the cost saving, they need to have this capability, as you mentioned, is not making widgets. So what, in your eyes, is China capable of now, in terms of where are they on the value chain climb? And perhaps some examples in companies that are doing different things.
Yeah, China is midway up the value chain, for want of a better term, but it's moving very rapidly. So 7 years ago, if you had talked to, well, in fact, I did talk to people here in the US about investing in chemistry CROs in China, and nobody was interested. I myself made predictions about where China would be on the value chain that have proven to be too conservative. China has clearly established certain capabilities initially through the service business, so providing contract R&D services. China has established world-class capabilities. At this point, we are already seeing the emergence of Chinese companies that are going beyond that to do actual R&D, to generate intellectual property, to generate new and innovative products, new and innovative science. So we see those companies already beginning to emerge. There are not a lot of them, but there are some that are quite serious. These are companies with very strong management teams, with interesting pipelines of products, with cutting-edge technology. So these are real companies, and I think we're just going to see a rapid increase in the number of those kinds of companies over the next few years.